Welcome to the flowerschool.com video library. I'm Leanne Kessler, Director of the Floral Design Institute, here to share with you our latest issue. This one I chose because we're right in the heart of the wedding season. 'Tis time for those summertime brides, so what better than a garden flower bridal bouquet, perfect for today's summer brides. When I work with a summer bride, many times they'll come in with a color scheme in mind, but oftentimes they just think of one color. They say, oh, my color is purple. And then it's up to you, the professional florist, to expand upon that and help them determine what flowers are going to be perfect for their purple wedding. So for this bouquet, I'm going to start with Scabiosa in purple. Isn't that grand? And then expand upon that by scooching over in an analogous color harmony. So adding more purples, and then also fuchsia, pink, and even a soft pastel pink, so that it gives me a spectrum to work with. Then when it comes to choosing the flowers themselves, I think about their shape. Flowers can be categorized into four main shapes. They're line, mass, form, and filler. And when you're creating a design, if you use three or more, it generally creates more interest. Mass would be your Scabiosa, your round flowers. The form could be the sweet peas, or these could be a line because of their linear format, especially when you get to the tendrils where it comes out and moves. The garden roses, definitely a form flower, and the yarrow, a filler flower. So depending on how you categorize the sweet peas, I have either 3 or 4 of the shapes: form, mass, filler, and line. And I have a spectrum in the analogous color harmony. This will be just grand in a bridal bouquet. Working with garden flowers in a bridal bouquet can be a little bit tricky. They tend to be thirsty, and some of them are very fragile. If you harvest your own from the garden, I find it helpful to actually go out with a bucket of water, cut the flowers and set them directly in a bucket. Here in Portland, we're so fortunate that we have a grower's market within our wholesale area, and many times when I buy flowers, I bring them home in buckets of water, so they never are dehydrated. But if that's not an option, then it takes a little extra care when you bring them home because they may have some water deprivation. They may be very, very thirsty. So if you prepare a cutting bucket, warm water, and then a holding bucket filled with water mixed with flower food, and then prepare your flowers using standard care and handling procedures. A little bit of extra time will make them last so much better. It can be as simple as taking the stalk, oh so fragrant, removing the lower leaves, always get everything off the bottom, and then using a sharp knife, cut under water, and let it set in warm water with flower food for about 1 hour. Scabiosa, another one that's relatively easy. Just remove the lower buds and the leaves, cut under water, and let it drink. Sweet peas, these are so grand. They're kind of tangled in here because they've got so many laterals. Pull that out. Look at that. This farmer harvests them with each of the tendrils still intact, which will make it for a beautiful, beautiful bouquet. I still need to remove the lower leaves and the lower tendrils because they'll be in the way. Then lower blooms like this, I can go ahead and remove. Getting it down to the master stem, just like so. Then give this one a cut and then set it aside to drink. I can save the blooms, give them a cut, set them in. The garden roses, you want to remove their thorns. And I like to use a glove and just strip down, making sure that all the thorns are blunted so that they don't poke the bride. And then once again, cut and set it aside. Now if your flowers are super thirsty, you may want to use Quick Dip. It's a rapid hydrating solution. Just dip them, then put them into the holding bucket so that they'll drink a little more rapidly. Yarrow, I remove the side shoots, clean that up, strip the lower foliage, And then just like everything else, give it a cut under water and let it sit. And fully hydrate for at least an hour before you work with it, but even better would be to leave it overnight. As I begin to assemble the bouquet, I'm going to leave all of my flowers in water so that they stay hydrated rather than starting to dehydrate laying out on the table. I'm going to set them aside a bit though so that I have room to work. And then I start with maybe 2 stems of the sweet peas, pulling them and looking and kind of gathering so that this becomes the center of my bouquet. Then I can start filling in. And it's easy to think about just taking a flower, setting it at a slight angle, and then turn it and repeat. Bring it in at a slight angle, maybe a scabiosa, keeping them tucked in tight together, and then turning. And again, keeping all the leaves above my hand so that the stems stay bare below my hands. Then turning, maybe another of the stalks so that they cluster close together. Turning, scabiosa, and everything I add into my hand, I keep it in the same format of head one direction, stem in the opposite, and turning. And by angling them, I get a nice full rounded bouquet. It leaves a little long, so is that one. Removing, and then turning. Then if I want to add a little more of the tendril coming outward, just taking another of the sweet pea and angling it into the hand, and then turning, keeping it nice and full and rounded, and always having the head one direction, stem the opposite, so that it angles and creates a nice symmetrical round as I work. Each flower has its own space to exist, and by angling them I can get it wider and fuller coming on around without crowding, so that each bloom can open out and exist in its own little space. Thinking about color combinations, maybe bringing in another of the deep colors here, and then turning, and turning. And then thinking about my tendrils, I want another one. Maybe bring it right over here, letting it come outward, a little leggier to give it some soft movement. Another rose. These roses are so fragrant. Garden roses are just fabulous. And sometimes they'll have little spots on them, but you know, that's the beauty of the garden. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Each bloom can have a little bit of character. And turning again. Another of the roses tucked low. And then looking at my color combinations, maybe another of the sweet peas coming in. Adding more of that purple. A little scabiosa. And turning. One more scabiosa. And maybe one more sweet pea. And I've got one more tendril. Let's see where I would like that to be. Thinking about how the bouquet is shaped. And I think I'm going to put it right over here. Let it come out with a little more fullness on that side. As an alternative to a foliage collar, I'm going to take my yarrow and just place it right around the base, tucking it tight, angling it in the same way so that I follow that same spiraling pattern, but banking it all the way around the bouquet to create a pretty little collar that supports the lower blossoms and finishes it off, just as the foliage would, but without any green, keeping it all in the analogous color harmony that we've been working with. When all of the flowers are in my hand, then I just use bind wire. Take off a section and wrap above my hand, snugly holding it all together so that it doesn't come apart. And then just wrap those two ends back and forth around each other to secure it. Then the normal length for a bouquet is roughly 2 hand lengths. It gives it a comfortable hold. I'm going to cut mine just a little bit longer so that I can put it in water, let it drink, and then cut it down the rest of the way later. So I'm just going to slice these all. Then, if I was preparing this for a bride, chances are I would have done it a day or two before the wedding. I could take this now and just set it back in water and let it sit and drink until the day of the wedding, when I would take it out to detail. When we think of detailing a bridal bouquet, often think of ribbon wrapping the stems, but with something as natural and organic looking as this, I wanted to do something a little bit different. So instead, I'm drying the stems off and then using a bit of sheet moss, soft and luxurious. It'll give a wonderful wrap that's very comfortable for the bride to hang on to. Don't need quite so much. Just kind of pushing it against it tightly to get it secured, and then using just a bit of bouillon wire and snugly binding this down nice and tightly. And then once it's secured into place, just taking that beginning end of the bind wire and the end, twisting the two together to make sure that it doesn't come undone, and then determining exactly how long I want this for the bride, right about there, going back and cutting all the stems down one more time so that it's ready to carry. Used to be that weddings were all in June, July, and August, and now brides get married all year round. But for me, the summertime bride is still my favorite because there's so many flowers, so many colors, so many choices, and I love the sunshine. This bouquet is just a fragrant beauty. I'm thinking I need to head out to the park, see if David will marry me again. I've got a bouquet. I'm ready. For more creative inspiration, check out our website at flowerschool.com. If you've got questions, comments, need a little more detail, don't hesitate to contact us. You can reach us through the website or by telephone at 1-800-819-8089. If email is easier, feel free to use my personal email. It's Leanne, Leanne, @floraldesigninstitute.com. For now, I hope I inspired you for the summertime brides. Have fun. Go gather some garden flowers and do something you love.